22-year-old Elliot Rogers, the latest school shooter at UC Santa Barbara, claimed in his online videos and writings to declare a war on women who rejected him. We use his case to discuss broader cultural norms, which can encourage negative attitudes in some males. We begin our program with excerpts from Democracy Now!'s interview with author Rebecca Solnit. Then we celebrate what local groups like Monarch Services and Men Creating Change are doing to help end sexual violence. So stay tuned.
Rebecca, your response to what happened in Santa Barbara over the weekend on Friday.
One of the things that was fascinating was the battle of the story. There was such a mainstream desire to say, oh, this was aberrant, oh, he was mentally ill, this has nothing to do with us, this raises no big questions. And to see feminists and allies speak out and say, no, this is about misogyny, this is about entitlement, was really extraordinary. The term sexual entitlement, which I'd heard before but not widespread, suddenly began to be used everywhere, and it feels like it really changed the conversation because so many people insisted on it, so many people got it. The sense that this guy was owed something by women and was furious at them for not giving it to him, and that he had the right to exact revenge and all kinds of, what our government calls collateral damage on the people around him because his needs weren't being met.
For the last 8 years of my life, ever since I've hit puberty, I've been forced to endure an existence of loneliness, rejection, and unfulfilled desires, all because girls have never been attracted to me. I'm 22 years old, and I'm still a virgin. I've never even kissed a girl. I've been through college, and I'm still a virgin. And it's been very torturous.
When a guy is a virgin, we find it so cute because it's like, oh, he's so innocent. And then it makes us want to
turn you out.
Yeah, because we're like, oh God, I want to corrupt him.
Smile. What can we learn here about the broader culture that enables people like this to do what he did?
I absolutely agree with Richard Martinez that the availability of guns is a huge problem. I think it's part of a toxic brew in our culture right now that includes modeling masculinity and maleness as violence, as domination, as entitlement, as control, and women as worthless, as disposable, as things men have the right to control, etc. And, as well as one of the sad things is that he seemed to have incredibly conventional ideas about what constituted happiness and well-being and his entitlement to them. He seemed to have no resources, no models of alternative ways to meet your needs, to be happy, to connect to human beings. So all of that needs to be addressed, but particularly the violence against women, which is a huge epidemic in this country right now.
Journalist Laurie Penny wrote an article in the New Statesman headlined, "Let's Call the Isla Vista Killings What They Were, Misogynist Extremism." In it, Penny writes, quote, "When news of the murders broke, when the digital world began to absorb and discuss its meaning, I'd been about to email my editor to request a few days off because the impact of some particularly horrendous rape threats had left me shaken, and I needed time to collect my thoughts. Instead of taking that time, I'm writing this blog, and I'm doing so in rage and in grief, not just for the victims of the Isla Vista massacre, but for what's being lost everywhere as the language and ideology of the new misogyny continues to be excused." Rebecca Solnit, I was wondering if you can comment on this.
I think what's important is to look at the broader picture. He killed 6 people, but 3 women every day in the United States are killed by domestic partners, ex-husbands, ex-boyfriends, etc. This is not an isolated event, but part of an epidemic. And you can look at other things he did earlier. In his 140-page sort of manifesto autobiography, he talks about trying to push women off a ledge at a party because they weren't paying attention to them, at throwing coffee on girls who didn't respond the way he wanted them to. And you can see these microaggressions. And just as you can see Laurie Penny being given rape and death threats, that there's a huge, broad network that we need to look at, and not just this guy, but the fact that, as the hashtag says it, yes, all women face these kinds of things, not just the women who died and were shot in Isla Vista and the men who got caught in the crossfire. So, you know, I think that we need to broaden the focus from this one guy who's no longer alive and his misery and rage, and to look at the broad picture of how well he fits into a culture of entitlement, how well he fits into a culture of rage, how well he fits into a culture that considers women tools and playthings and property. And then we need to start addressing that. Or maybe we just need to broaden and deepen the way that some of us have been addressing it for decades, including you, of course. In early 2013, really worldwide, very strongly in India and the United States, we changed the way we talked about rape. You know, we won the battle of the story to stop treating rape as sort of isolated aberrant incidents and treat it as a widespread problem that arises not from anomalies in the culture, but from the mainstream of the culture. And changing the language was part of that. The word rape culture, or the words rape culture, the phrase rape culture became very widespread last year, and a really important tool in addressing the epidemic of rapes in the military, on campuses and all over the country, and in a lot of parts of the world. I feel like the word this year, because we've made another kind of breakthrough in discussing it, is sexual entitlement, so that to discuss the broad problems that underlie this particular incident. I feel like we really shook things up this weekend, and that we won the battle of the story. There's 500,000 Yes All Women tweets to frame the story as a broad story, as a big story, as a story that's central to our culture, as a story that impacts all women, not just the women who were directly attacked in Isla Vista.
Rebecca, explain yes, all women, those words, that phrase.
There's this incredibly annoying phrase, not all men, that comes up all the time. You know, you say 3 women a day are murdered by male partners, and so often some guy will say, not all men. We know it's not all men, but we need to talk about the fact that it is all women. And that's what Yes All Women said is, yeah, we know not all men are rapists and murderers, are not abusers and misogynists, but all women are impacted by the men who are. And that's where the focus needs to be, because it has such a huge impact. Every woman, every day when she leaves her house, starts to think about safety. Can I go here? Should I go out there? Do I need to take the main street? Do I need to be in by a certain hour? Do I need to find a taxi? Is the taxi driver going to rape me? You know, women are so hemmed in by fear of men. It profoundly limits our lives. And of course, it's not all men, but it's enough that it impacts all women. And it's pretty nearly worldwide. The tweets were coming from all over the English-speaking world and parts of the world that aren't primarily English-speaking, to say that this problem impacts me, this problem impacts us, and we need to keep doing things about it. We need to escalate, and we need to address how deeply embedded it is, and we need to make visible what's been invisible, and we need to change it. I think it's important that we look at all this stuff together. It begins with these microaggressions, it ends with rape and murder, and what Italian feminists call femicide.
Your take on the way schools in this country have handled rape on campus?
It's been pretty damn pathetic in a whole lot of ways. One thing is that they tend to worry a lot more in many cases about the well-being of the perpetrators and the victims. Another thing is that they shifted responsibility for preventing rape from men not to rape to women to do all kinds of things to not get raped, which we don't do with any other crime. And you know, and then they haven't pursued these things seriously. It's also kind of crazy. It's like, okay, if there's petty vandalism on campus, maybe that's a campus issue. But if there's a felony crime that involves, you know, a woman being strangled, a woman being brutalized, why is that not turned over to the legal system, which is there to deal with those things? The idea that it's an in-house incident. But what, you know, it's been mishandled or overlooked, not handled at all for decades, forever. But what's amazing is because these young women rose up, they said, this is not acceptable. This is not a legitimate way to deal with it. This is a very exciting time in feminism. I think that we're shifting things profoundly.
This event was created as a men's march to really take a stand against violence against women. So this event really joins men, women, and children together as a community to raise awareness. Men Creating Change. It was started by 2 students at the university in response to a reported sexual assault on campus. And those 2 students had the courage to stand up to say that men should use their voice to help prevent sexual violence and not just to stand and let it happen. Men Creating Change also encourages the discussion to include how relationship violence also affects men who identify as gay or transgendered, and to challenge those harmful aspects of traditional masculinity, to value alternative visions of male strengths, and to embrace their vital role as allies with women in fostering healthy relationships and gender equality. This work cannot be done alone. It takes a community to do it. And very specifically, we need men on board. We need men to help us in this movement.
The way that I see it is that violence against women or any other sexual assault, any violence whatsoever, is really a men's issue as well. We have male-identified survivors. We have male-identified people who are subject to violence, subject to abuse, subject to sexual assault, and also 98% of people who commit these crimes are males. So in order to make any sort of headway and change in our culture, we really need males on board to start this process or to continue this process. So it's super important for men to realize that they're kind of the key component to stopping violence and stopping sexual assault. It basically said that we need to stop treating rape as kind of a simple way to do something dramatic in fiction. It's kind of a cop-out for bad fiction writers to use rape as kind of the go-to crime to show that somebody's evil. So we really need to just stop using it as kind of this crutch.
I'm here for solidarity for women, and I think it's a great event. I think it's important to really stand against violence, against sexual assault, against all of that. And I think everyone should really be aware of these issues and how it can affect people and millions of people, men and women, not just women, and sort of the way that media just goes about and making men seem as like emotionless, like they shouldn't be expressive of the emotion. And I think it's important that even men should care about these issues, and it's not okay.
Stop crying.
Don't cry.
Like, you need to pick yourself up.
Don't be weak.
Always keep your mouth shut.
Nobody likes a tattletale.
Bros, don't let your woman run your life, alright?
Be a man.
Be a man.
Do something.
So man up.
Man up. Man up.
Man up. Act like a man.
Be a man.
Putting on the shoes, I think it represents being in someone else's shoes and knowing that you are here to support others who have gone through a struggle. It starts with knowing that you are more than just a bystander. You're more than just like a victim, and that if it ever happens to you, that there are places and people you can talk to. Instead of thinking about it as like, don't get raped, but stop rape and don't rape. Just through media, we're constantly seeing these images of objectifying women, and it's not right. Women are people too. They're human beings. They deserve to be respected, and it's important that we teach everyone, our children, our.
Excuse me. I've been getting mixed messages about women and violence. I need a little clarification.
Uncle Bill, how am I supposed to grow up to respect women when I have such lousy role models?
Boys are never going to approach you.
Can you help me reshape my attitudes towards women?
You need to teach them that violence against women is wrong.
What are we telling the men in our lives? We tend not to worry about men as much, including those in our own families, simply because they are male. But this is a message that men are getting that can be problematic to fight domestic and sexual violence. Boys as young as 4 are told to be a man, usually in response to them crying or showing fear. As they grow up, they're bombarded with messages that say to be a manly man, they need to be big and strong, be physically aggressive and ready to fight.
Boring.
Show no emotions, especially fear or pain, but anger is just fine. While most violent acts are committed by men, most men are not violent. So many men are caring, responsible, and non-violent people. The media is filled with portrayals of fictional male characters who are primarily rewarded for fighting and getting the girl. Ask him how this affects his idea of how men should act and compare it to how the men he respects act. Oftentimes, men have never compared the two and hear the traditional notion much more strongly to the point where they don't see any other way of being a man. Some current examples of things to talk about are songs like Robin Thicke's Blurred Lines and shows like MTV's Guy Code in the Real World. This creates a culture where we hear terrible excuses like, boys will be boys, he can't control himself, and she was asking for it. For the record, there is never an excuse for domestic or sexual violence. And lastly, number 6, discuss how non-violent men can be a part of ending violence. Many men who are not violent think that because they're not doing it, that's enough. But that should be the beginning and not the ending for men's efforts to end violence. Sometimes sharing statistics about domestic and sexual abuse can enlighten them and help them understand how many people are affected. Show them different ways they can become involved, whether it's learning more about the issues, volunteering at nonprofits, or discussing with their male and female peers. There is always something they can do to stop violence. You are challenging years, if not decades, of the society, the media, or even his own family and friends telling him what a man is. These concepts can run deep on the subconscious level, and by just engaging in the conversation, they're taking a step. However, what's most important is to remember that it's not your place to tell them that they're wrong and make them agree with what you believe masculinity means either. That would be the same type of domination that you're trying to change. Instead, keep challenging their ideas. Encourage them to engage in their own critical thinking process about what type of man they want to be. Your goal is to help them see other options so they can consciously make their own decisions for themselves. Just remember, one conversation can spark a thought. One thought can influence change, and one person's change can save a life. Thank you.
Lisa, and I'm one of the commissioners. We're volunteers for the City of Santa Cruz Commission for the Prevention of Violence Against Women. A few of the programs that the Commission supports and advocates for and the city sponsors is a 2-hour free workshop, Engaging the Bystander, and that's for community members to learn tools if they see something happening in the community and how can they help and be safe.
And so it was a lighthearted approach, a serious subject to get men involved, and we've been able to grow and invite entire families because it is definitely a community issue. We all need to be involved in it, and so men, women, and kids, we're all out here speaking up, using our voices. I think seeing key figures in our community wearing heels, really walking a mile in her shoes, and standing up for women, it really lends to being the role models that we're looking for our kids and for women to feel supported in their roles as women. And I think as parents, it's really a fine line of balancing of what's fun, but I think it's really the message that we give our kids, who we are as men and women, and what the message that we're dictating in the way that we are living our lives and the things that we're talking to our children about at the dinner table. I think that's really where the education comes.
How was the walk?
It was amazing. We loved it. Excellent event. We love to support it every year.
Hi, I'm Paige. I'm Courtney. And we're from SAFE, Sexual Assault and Sex Education at UCSC. And we're at Walk a Mile today because we believe that everyone has a role in preventing sexual violence in our community. And so we're just here tabling, letting everyone know about some of the really cool stuff SAFE is doing. I mean, we brought the most UCSC students we've ever brought here before, and a lot of them are men. So it's really cool being able to bridge the gap between the community and UCSC a little bit more. And I think also this is showing a bigger presence that, you know, this isn't just a women's issue, this is a men's issue.
Part of the importance of getting men involved is having men there to influence the conversation. We really need men to be able to talk to other men in spaces that women aren't available in, like locker rooms, like in the gym, in these places where men are being men, and we need men to step up and say that this is not okay. So as far as what we can do is, as long as we keep the conversation alive, as long as we're actively participating in the conversation, I feel like we're still making headway. And then we can always do what we need to do to talk to broad audiences. I think what you're doing is great, using whatever piece of art form you have available to you to communicate these messages, coming to local events, being part of the local community. You know, this is kind of an interesting time. We have the Vice President of the United States stepping up. We have the Department of Education just releasing a list. We have government motion behind this movement, and we really need to just keep pushing it. And the way that we push it on an individual level is going to succeed for years to come, I think. So as long as individually we just keep pushing it, I think we're doing great.
I see an incident that happens, I need to keep my mouth closed, because no one wants to be labeled a snitch.
Don't snitch, don't tell, don't act is part of a pervasive male code. Think about how many lives would be improved or saved if men had the courage to say something or do something in the face of an assault, bullying, or rape.
As a male person, I'm here to tell other males that we need to stop all this sexual abuse to women, that women are the same as us, that we wouldn't like to get sexually abused by nobody. So if we don't want that, then we shouldn't do this. So my purpose is just to stop and show males that they should also come and join us, so that we all live in happy world, I guess, as humans together. Yeah.
Our community is so compassionate, and this is one of the causes that most people overlook. You know, it's sort of under the surface of society. People turn kind of a blind eye to it, and this is a way to raise awareness around, you know, sexual assault and also domestic violence. There is a tendency towards movement towards compassion, but it is towards sexual assault, or, you know, hunger, or whatever it is in our society. I'm hopeful that there is an awakening taking place in society, and that we're in the next leg of human evolution, where people become more aware of the things that we're doing that affect the world. And
could you just speak a little bit about our popular media's contribution?
That's a big problem. You know, I for myself don't have TV, and I have kids, and I try to teach them the value about looking inward and not get hooked into the media and mindless violence and everything else. You know, at the end of the day, I believe that whatever we do to other people, we do to ourselves. And so, if we perpetuate this stream of violence in movies and videos and things like that, all we're doing is we're hurting ourselves. And I believe that as we wake up and our conscience rises to the occasion, that hopefully this will taper off, and we recognize that what we're doing to each other. And that that's the next step of evolution, you know, the awareness that people become more kind and compassionate towards one another.
Faye, can you tell me about your experience today? How was it for you to be here?
It was really positive. As a UC Santa Cruz student, I think it's really nice to go out into the city and really join the causes that the community is fighting for, but also something that is really prevalent on college campuses, including sexual assault. You know, 1 in 4 college women are sexually assaulted, and 1 in 6 college men are. So I think it's really important to kind of join forces and really speak out and stand up for sexual assault awareness.
great. How do you think we'll ever stop violence against women? Do you think it's a possibility in our lifetime?
I definitely think it's a possibility. I think the idea is to keep thinking that it's a possibility, because like, the sooner we give up or think of it as this utopian way of living, we won't be able to achieve it. So I think it really begins with dialogue. Dialogue on both ends, with men and with women, informing people of their rights, and also of like how we should be behaving as a society. We function on a victim blaming sort of dialogue, and we really need to step away from that and really look at the source of the issue, and like what are we putting out there, what are we teaching our children at a young age about behaviors they should have in society in contrast to women. And obviously this is not something that just applies to women, but predominantly. So I think the dialogue is the first place to begin, and I really hope that we can stop all this violence.
And what do you think specifically about men walking in on high heels? Could you just talk a little bit about that particular aspect?
I think I personally have, I think it's people's, option, and they have the free will to express themselves. However, I have no issue with men walking in heels. I think my personal issue is that suggesting that that's the way like women perform is in heels, or like gender performance is in heels, and I think that that's sort of boxing. But at the end of the day, I think the intentions are really positive, and that's what matters.
Here, but I remember we had a couple of persons fall down in these high heels, so make sure when you're walking on these trails with the high heels that you just be careful.
My name is Danny Chichone, and I also didn't know how rough it would be to walk in heels. Like, I imagine like women have to walk in them for the whole day, and I'm only wearing it for like a mile, so it's rough. It's really hard.
Sing Let's Get Down to Business in the heels.
Let's get down to business, to defeat the hunt. When I ask for some, you're the saddest bunch I ever met. Before we're through, Mr. I'll make a man out of you. Corset, where we just squeeze it in so much. It's just horrible.
Similar to like these, like the closed-toed shoes. They're so tight, I can't even wear those. That's why I chose to wear open-toed shoes.
Oh yeah, you get a little freedom there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you have a little more stability in that wider heel. They're actually quite nice, aren't they?
I think yours are higher than ours today.
It is higher.
You're wearing your toes.
Society's strange, yeah. What we find normal is definitely, It's kind of arbitrary. What we decide is like, hey, this is popular, this isn't. So it's, yeah, it's weird.
Making it a norm, a social norm that that women should be wearing these high heels to attract men, but it's not about attracting men. Like, women should be accomplishing their goals not to satisfy someone else, but instead to satisfy their own dreams and pursue their dreams.
Dad, that doesn't make your legs look.
What? Yeah, it makes your legs and your butt look so nice. How can I tell? You just take a picture from behind. You can tell me how they look.
How could I was whistling at you?
Yeah, exactly.
As I was walking, I saw the struggles that women go through to like try to make themselves look better, and like it's not just a problem with walking with heels. It's just a struggle that women go through altogether. And I don't know, it was eye-opening and back-hurting, and yeah.
That it's really hard to walk in heels, and that we shouldn't as a society expect women to wear heels to be beautiful, because they don't need that.
If I saw it happening, I was taught you have to do something about it.
If I saw it happening, I speak up.
If I saw it happening, I'd never blame her. I'd help her.
Because I don't want to be a part of the problem.
I want to be a part of the solution.
We need all of you to be part of the solution. This is about respect. It's about responsibility.
It's up to all of us to put an end to sexual assault. And that starts with you.
Because one is too many.
Mama told me not to waste my life. She said, spread your wings, my little butterfly. Don't let what they say keep you up at night, 'cause they can't detain you. These wings were made